Learn how default imports allow you to name the imported item anything you want without using curly braces. Here's my boilerplate code, and we want to look at an example of how we can rename default imports in JavaScript. Inside my script section, I've added a couple of commented out guide on what we need to do for this exercise. The first thing says create message.js file and export the message variable. The next one says import the message variable in index.html, and lastly display the result. So let's go ahead and make the message.js file. I had it already, but I'm going to delete it so that we can go over it together. So I will come into the root folder of my code and then make the file message.js. So now that I have this file, I'll go inside it and then add an arrow function inside it for a message. So I'm going to just return a simple string. Hello from the default text. So this is my string that I want to return. Now I can come under this and say export default message. So I want to export this file and use it in another file. So now that I have done this, I'll return back into my index file. I'll look at the next instructions. The next instruction says import the message variable in index.html. So it's time to import what I just defined inside the message.js. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to just import it with name since it is a default export message from message. But this is not going to work because I have my file inside the root folder. So I'll add another dot to it. And again, I will now add another import and call this text from message. Now you can see I have two imports now inside my script tag. Then I can go ahead and display the results. Document.getElement by ID demo.innerHTML equals. Now, when a file has, before I output that, I quickly want to talk about this export default. When a file has an export default, it is sending out one unnamed package because it is the only default item in that file. As you can see, we have only one item that is contained inside this file, or anything else that we like to call our default name. When it is now time to import it, you do not always need curly braces, as you can see, because if I put curly braces, it will not work. You can see that I'm importing it directly in my index file where I need to make use of it. Now, what we are talking about in this particular exercise is how we can rename our default imports. Now, usually when you have an export inside your code like this, like the way we have it inside message.js, when it is time for you to import it, you usually follow this route, import message from message.js. But you might be wondering that what exactly is this next line of code doing? Import text from message.js. You can see that both of these imports are coming from the same file, which is our message.js. Now, one thing I want you to notice that name export forces you to use exact spelling. For example, if I come here now and I call on message, this definitely should work. Hello from default text. But now, watch, immediately the exact name does not work. You should see that the output will disappear from the screen, and that is because named export forces you to use exact spelling. Now, default exports allow you to rename the item instantly during the import step to fit your context. So what I did here now, you can see that since this name does not match what I have inside my text, number one, it disappeared. The same way is how it works for named exports. Now, default export, on the other hand, allows you to rename the item instantly during the import step to fit your command. Now look at this. If I go ahead to call the text, now this is also showing hello from default text, but let me just break this so that you can see what I'm talking about. Close break. So I want to add a break so that we can have this on another line. Okay, let me first comment this out. Now, instead of doing this, let me just put one inside another demo. Do I have that here in my code? Demo 1, let me call this maybe demo 2 or whatever. I'll see if it will work. Oh, this actually is not working because I didn't have it set up. So what should I just do? So let me just put everything together so you see what I'm talking about. Now let me just go ahead and call the text. And right now nothing is showing. I quickly want to inspect what is wrong in my code so that we have understanding. Is null. Can't access .inner HTML. Inner.html document.get ID demo, or is it, should we try demo 1? Okay. Hello from default text plus, let me now try and add text and see. Now look at it. Hello from the default text and hello from the default text. Now you will see that both of these imports are doing the same thing. Now if I can name it anything, you might want to ask that why should you care if you can actually name your import anything, because in this instance now this is supposed to be the default way. And if you look at what we have here, which is text, if I remove this, calling text out, calling text out also will work. So if I do the normal import or call it or rename it into anything, this will still work. So why should you care if you can just name your variable anything? Well, the reason why you should care is because even though JavaScript lets you name it anything, you should always use something clear and recognizable. For example, if your file exports a user login function, name your import login user, not banana. Teams names keep code readable. So for your code to be more readable, for your code to be more cleaner, and your syntax to be more elegant, you use descriptive names that are clear and easily recognizable in case of time when you need to debug your code. Now, I want to ask you a question. What if I do something like this? If I put curly braces around this, what do you think is going to happen? Will our code work? Now you can see that the output has disappeared. Now, no. Curly braces tell JavaScript to look for a named export and not a default export. And in our case, we have a default export. So as a result of that, so the code will break and it will not work, as you can see on the screen. So look at how we import the exact same file in two different ways. We call it message on this first line and we call it text on the second line. Let me take out the curly braces because we don't need it. And let me bring this back, message and text. Now, and at the second line, we call it text. Both work flawlessly because message.js, which is our file here, only has one default export. JavaScript simply connects your custom name straight to that default item. So as long as you're importing from that file, even though if you are renaming it when you are importing it, because it is just one default export in that file, JavaScript will simply connect your custom name straight to that default item.